Hello and welcome to Snetterton for round 6 and 7 of the British GT. It's the final sprint race weekend of the championship, the final of 2 sprint race weekends here in the championship. 2 one-hour races coming your way here today and a lot to play for in the championship. GT3 separated by just 3 points for the top 3. GT4, 27.5 points separate the top 2, so a lot going on with 4 rounds to go. Here at Snetterton, under the lovely Norfolk sky, well, it is sunny, but it is also quite cloudy and humid. Qualifying yesterday, 42-degree track temperature. Today, the air temperature is 26 degrees, track is 28 degrees and warming by every single second. A lot coming your way this afternoon, and I'm delighted to have the A-team here on the grid with me, starting with this man, David Addison. You don't often get on the track, do you?
No, I know, I barely recognise this. I mean, normally I'm allowed to walk across it to go from the booth to the pit lane and back again, but to actually stand on the grid and maybe even see some cars, it's a bit of a rarity. And what better a grid to stand on than a GT grid? Exactly that, and a finely poised grid, as I was saying. 3 points separate the top 3 in GT3 alone. Yeah, and it's a kind of bank raid day, this, because get it right, you can score big. You've got 2 races which earn points. Get it wrong in both races, and you can be in big trouble. You know, if you think back to Alton Park and GT4, the Ravi Ramy BMW crash early on, that was a car that could have had 2 really good results out of race 1, didn't score, damage too great to even take part in race 2. So, yeah, like I say, get it wrong, and it can really bite today.
Talking about Ravi Ramy, they are second in the championship, 27.5 points, Ravi and Charlie, his co-driver there. Alton Park aside, their season has been very, very strong.
It has, and it's an example of how an AM can be brought on with a quick pro. You know, Charlie Robertson, we talk about a lot, or have done over the years, as a Ginetta factory driver. He's now fled the nest, as it were, and he's proving that he can drive anything, not just Ginettas. He's ideally suited to that car, and his experience of whether it's a GT car or an LMP3 prototype is helping Ravi Ramy get up the grid. How often have we talked to a Jonny Adam type driver who talks about investing in the AM to get them faster? That's where all the time is to be unlocked.
Just ahead of them on the grid is Brandon Templeton and Chris Salkeld. They are also in a Century BMW, and I was talking to Ravi about this, saying, oh, what happens in the team, because you need to climb the order? Are there going to be a nice little message going over the radio saying, just move aside? And he said, it's what happened at Spa.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you kind of think, well, it should be every man for himself because different drivers are paying to be on this grid. But then for the overall good, because there's also a teams championship, you know, you do need to be thinking of certainly not driving into each other. Motor racing history is full of examples of when teammates fall out. So, yeah, don't be silly, play it safe, and really, I suppose, see where you are towards the end of the race, and then maybe the phone might ring to do a switch.
Don't be silly, you don't be silly. You're going to disappear off just for a few seconds now and going to interview some GT3 drivers when they arrive.
I am.
I'm going to go over to part 2 of the A-team, and that's this man over here. See you in a bit, Addis. It's Joe Osborne. He's back in the saddle. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be back. The best domestic championship in the world, bar none, for GT racing. So we had an interesting qualifying yesterday. I know you've spoken to it about Dave, but the weather is a huge change this morning.
I will talk to you about weather in just a few seconds, but just give us a brief overview of your season so far, because you've been commentator, team manager, driver, commentator. It's every single role. When are you going to change to another role?
It's a bingo list, isn't it? I'm working through them slowly and surely, and yeah, start the season off, team manager Mahiki. It was an interesting start. It's all amicable there, so I wish them well. They've obviously moved to Ginettas, which so far has seemed to have worked out really well for them. Seeing a bit more reliability from that G56, the V8 as well, very strong around here at Snetterton.
With them in mind, very quickly, talking about, I mean, your knowledge of cars, as we know, is it's all right, I suppose, it's okay. Talking to them about the engine layout of that car, they had to relearn the front engine, and it's taken them not a bit of time. They've only had one race in that car so far, but it is a very, very different car, particularly around here, the way it performs.
Massively. So for the driver, you've got now the weight, the bulk of the weight now in front of you rather than behind like the Lotus. So when you come off the brake, that's the big change. That unsprung mass suddenly reacts how the car is. So the front end much pointier on that Ginetta, and we see the car then dart in, and then suddenly the rear is light, which is the opposite to when the engine is behind you. So all of that weight at play. It's a big ask for a team to swap mid-season, but for the drivers, it's really a complete polar opposite feeling underneath them.
A complete polar opposite, as we say, about the temperature. Looking up above us here, lots and lots of clouds. It is fairly humid. I mean, I'm in a race suit. You're luckily in a shirt, beautifully ironed, by the way. And track temperature, 42 degrees, as I say, in qualifying yesterday, 28 degrees at the moment, and a very, very green circuit. There have only been 2 very short races so far out here today at Snetterton.
Yeah, 30% less. And the tyre, we always go on, don't we? It's the only part of the car that touches the tarmac. So if you get that element wrong, the race is really hard. Yes, you have a pit stop. We will see some teams put new tyres on in that pit stop when the pro jumps in to try and undercut teams. So look out for that. But those tyre pressures so crucial. Too high, the tyre drops off. Too low at the start of the race, the drivers will be suffering.
We saw yesterday as well a couple of red flags, and I was talking to Morgan Tillbrook actually. He said to me that they looked at the data on his car. He had an off in his qualifying session, which means he starts way down the order. Massively disappointing for Morgan Tillbrook because we are about to get run over by the safety car. But for him, when they said they looked at the data, and it turns out it was a gust of wind that caught them.
Interesting, yeah, and I'll go back to my former role as a driver, and I'll just leave that one as okay. There's a few blustery natures of here at Snetterton. It's very open. That's why you see the cars hug the pit wall up the pit straight, trying to stay in the shelter of the wind. But interesting comment from Morgan on that one.
We're going to let you go to the commentary in just a few moments. It's great to have you back in the saddle, though. But David Anderson is now with Kiern Jewiss, just off to my right-hand side, left as you look, with the pole sitter, or his co-driver, anyway. He's here with Kiern Jewiss.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Kiern Jewiss is standing by, ready to do the second stint in a car that's on pole position. Perfect place to be, isn't it, this?
Yeah, for sure. You know, around here it's not really the easiest to overtake. So hopefully we can get a good start with Charles and just get our head down and pick up some missed points we've had over the last couple of rounds.
It's been a tough summer in a sense. I mean, it started brilliantly, the win at Donington, maximum points at Silverstone, and then it unravelled a bit.
Yeah, you know, people develop and, you know, naturally the teams bond a bit more with the drivers and they start getting a bit more performance out of it. And you know, with these 25 kilos, it just really is hard work. So when it comes to qualifying pace, you just haven't quite got it there. But we got a good race car, and I think we can really try and use that today.
When people are talking about it being hard to overtake around here, what is it? Because if I think back a few months to a touring car meeting, you know, we had cars running side by side for quite a lot of the lap. Is it just the sheer size and the aero of a GT3 car?
Yeah, you know, you get a lot of dirty air, but the car's getting better and better. You know, the stopping capabilities increasing, and you know the ABS, so you know there's a lot less room for error, depending on the manufacturer as well. You know, the Merc, where the strong side isn't a straight line speed, so we can't, it's hard for us to ever get a run, and then by the time we get to the corner we're in the dirty air, so for us it's very challenging. Other manufacturers, you know, their strengths and weaknesses throughout, but let's see. Final question, are we thinking wins or are we thinking points today? Same thing, is it not? So look, we're on pole, you've got to go for the win. We're in an important position in the championship, we need to get them points.
I like the thinking. Kiern, good luck. Right, Ben, let's head this way. We can jump across the front because Jonny Adam is standing by. The most winning driver in British GT, yawn, yawn. I bet you're sick of people saying this, but well done.
Yeah, thank you. No, yeah, it was a nice achievement, but yeah, it's we're rolling the next round, which is here at Snetterton, and glorious weather, good crowd. It looks like it's busy this weekend, and yeah, we're in a good place for race one. We're second on the grid.
However, at this point, one checks your foot to make sure it's not been shot, because the win at Spa means you get 10 seconds extra time to serve in the pit lane. So that's pretty tough in a 1 hour race to overcome, isn't it? Unless you get a safety car, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard, especially with the AMs. Only, I think they do 22 minutes of driving for the first part of the stint. So it's hard, but that's what's good, and it's bad for us today, but that's what makes the championship so close over all the years, is this added sort of pit stop time. But the key is we practice a lot in the pits, because pushing back and getting a nice clean pit stop is key. We've actually saved some tyres for today as well, so we've got some new tyres to use. So I think we're in a good place. I mean, the Mercedes definitely done a great lap. Dawson looks fast this weekend, so be interesting at the start. Giacomo's got a plan, but we have to box clever today. Points is important at this point of the championship. We had a great Alton part with those 2 sprint races with consistency. It's the same sort of format this weekend.
Just talk to me about Blackthorn as well, because collectively, you, Giacomo, team, you know, you're looking at a better place than this time last year.
Yeah, massive step from the team. You know, they were very much new to the scene last year, to British GT. First time they were in the championship properly full time, and they ran 2 cars last year. This year we've really sort of stepped up on sort of preparation and engineering, and we've done a lot of testing, which has made a big difference. And you know, we scaled down to just running our car, and the team have made a huge step forward. The car feels, it's actually a different car than last year. It's a different chassis, but the team have really put their name right to where obviously teams like 2Cs and Optimum are just now, and you know, we feel good. The team are performing really well. The consistency is there from the crew on this car. We just need to deliver on track now.
Excellent. Right, good luck. Jonny will do the second stint. Right, I might just have time, if we run really swiftly, to go and have very, very quick word with Paddock Motorsport. Martin Plowman is standing by the car, and if I get a jog on, which doesn't happen very often, Martin, very quick word, nice to see you. Right, fifth on the grid, this is looking promising.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good qualifying for Mark. You know, he's been working really hard this year, and he pulled out the bag yesterday, so we're going to leave nothing on the table and hopefully be there at the end.
Excellent, fingers crossed. Martin, good luck. Mark Smith is going to start the car. Right, we're getting closer to race time here at Snetterton. Before we get the first of 2 1-hour races underway, let's just remind ourselves on what's been happening in British GT the season so far. The British GT Championship began at Donington back in April, and the 2-hour race turned out to be a battle between the 2Cs Motorsport Mercedes and Barwell Motorsports Lamborghini, and a safety car was triggered after Giacomo Petrobelli's Aston Martin got involved with one of the Mahiki Racing Lotuses. After the safety car, the Nick Jones Sven Muller Porsche was in big strife as Kiern Jewiss and Charles Dawson fended off a charging Lamborghini of Sandy Mitchell and Alex Martin to take the win. In GT4, it was honours for Mark Warren and Jack Brown, their McLaren coming home victorious ahead of the BMW of Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson. The Silverstone 500 was next, with a 3-hour race and strategy to be played with. Morgan Tillbrook's McLaren led away and was able to hang on to the early advantage. But it was one of the best GT3 entries of the season, and a really hard battle ensued. Poor old Mahiki was in the wars once again, having shown great speed, but a 3-wheeled Lotus was going nowhere. It was returning 2023 champions Darren Lung and Dan Harper who came and conquered. Kiern Jewiss and Charles Dawson came home second, but took maximum points, while Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson were victorious in GT4. The first double-header of the season was at Alton Park at the end of May. Rob Collard and Giacomo Petrobelli battled to the first corner in race 1, others ploughing off wide, while Ravi Ramid had this big accident at Island Bend that put the BMW out for the day. After the pit stops, Hugo Cook managed to hang on to take a maiden British GT Championship win in the Lamborghini shared with Rob Collard. Kevin Say and Maxi Goetz taking second, while Jack Brown and Mark Warren won again in GT4. Race 2 was held on a wet road and a tyre gamble was key. Some went for slicks, more rain fell, and Kiern Jewiss was one of many off the road. As the track surface changed, tyre compounds, tyre choice was absolutely crucial. Nick Jones, another driver in strife, running wide at Island Bend, but just about getting away with it. As the Mercedes AMG of Kevin Say and Maxi Goetz hung on to take a dominant race win, Kevin Say's second success at Alton Park, while in GT4, it was Jack Brown and Mark Warren victorious yet again. The overseas round at Spa-Francorchamps was always eagerly anticipated, and it was Giacomo Petrobelli who grabbed the lead at La Source on the opening lap, and he and Jonny Adam managed to come through to score victory. For Jonny, a record 20th win in the championship, while Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson bounced back from Alton Park disappointments to win in GT4. So looking down onto a busy grid, you can see there number 9 McLaren, the car that Martin Plowman and Mark Smith will share. Martin you heard from a few moments ago. And of course behind the GT3 element of the grid there is another very busy GT4 scrap ready to burst into life. And in the middle of all the drivers on that front row of the GT4 grid is Bryn Lucas.
Absolutely swinging my arms windmill style here with Harry George. It's starting in pole position with Luca behind. Your qualifying yesterday didn't go to plan. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, later on ahead of race 2. But Luca starting in prime position. Yeah, certainly. Giving us the best chance for this race for sure. I mean, it's not going to be easy given that we've got our silver penalty, pit stop time, etc., and especially against the 90 car. But in an ideal world, we both get off, have a great start, and make the gap. But I just want to say a big thank you to Opsman for all their hard work and getting the car back to one piece. Yeah, you did batter it yesterday, but good luck in this one. Thanks so much to Harry George. Just go for a little bit of a walk there. The seconds he's talking about, by the way, the 14 seconds are to do with the fact they're a silver pairing. So in their pit stop, they have to sit there for 14 seconds. Just swing around to the left for me, Stuart, if you can, because 69 Mahiki, the Stephen Lake and Blake Anglis cars, you see sitting in their box at the moment, in their garage. That has got a steering issue. They're hoping to get it started and out on the start of the race from the pit lane. As we go a little bit further and come up with A different driver from a different car, Janetta, but it is Mahiki, and you're starting in a very, very good position, Jack.
No, really happy. Yeah, yesterday was really, really strong for us. Obviously, we're pole for race 2, and Josh was a little bit unlucky yesterday with his qualifying, but I think P2 was the best he could have got. But we're starting P3, we're on the inside, and I think that's a good place for us.
We've spoken a fair bit about the fact that Mahiki have changed cars across this season. How is that faring for you with the performance?
I think it's really good so far. Like you said, we had pole at Spa. I got pole for my race 2, and we're in the mix, and that's what we want. I think the BOP seems very good this weekend for all the cars. It seems very close. So I think it's going to be exciting 2 races.
Good luck, good luck. Mentions BOP. We don't talk about BOP. We'll move on. Let's just go a bit further back then to, I think we've got a minute to do so. Just to quickly grab Charlie Robertson, who's standing there. He won't move. He's not going to come to me. I'll walk all the way to you, Charlie. Here you are, looking at yourself and Ravi then, in a really, really strong position in the championship. Second, 27.5 points off. It's not an insurmountable sum that you've got to make up.
No, definitely not. Obviously, Alton, it was a lot bigger, and it looked like a real struggle. And then we had a really good Spa, nearly half the points gap. So this weekend's more of the same, really. Got to get 2 finishes. That's imperative. And yeah, just try and keep our nose clean, and then see what the results pop out.
When you guys finish, you always finish well, it seems.
It does seem that way. So yeah, that's definitely the mantra. Try and finish both races, and yeah, then take the championship going on.
The blip for you and your copybook, of course, is Alton Park, with the non-race start in race 2 and the incident in race number 1 really hampering your efforts there. How are you guys looking at this one? I know it's just do the best you can each time, but I was talking to Ravi. Ahead of you, just up there on the left-hand side, is another Century BMW. That's got to help. Yeah,
we're sensible. So we've had a conversation. We had a bit of teamwork at Spa where Ravi let Brendan go ahead. And if the same situation presents itself today, I think they'll return the favour. So we're very much in tune with that, and yeah, we'll work together.
And although you've got that 10-second pit stop compensation time, as I battle my hair with the wind here, means you've got a 4-second advantage over those cars around you that are silvers. Yeah,
exactly. So just got to hang on to those guys and then see what happens. Obviously, the 90 McLaren doesn't have the penalty, but then race 2 we're starting ahead of them, so it's all to play for.
Very quickly before you leave the grid, because I know we're going to have to get started in just a few seconds, talk to us a little bit about track evolution. I've mentioned 42 degrees, the track temperature yesterday in quali. It's 28, 29 now.
It seems quite quick in the morning, then it tails off a little bit in the afternoon as the temperature rises. But the rubber was going down all day yesterday, so the track did light up in qualifying, especially for the GT3 cars. We didn't see so much of a gain, but I think today, temperature staying pretty similar. I think we'll just see the track getting quicker and quicker.
Listen, we wish you the very best of luck as always. Thanks very much to Charlie. Just swing around here for a second, Stuart. Have a look at this big empty gap over my shoulder. That's where the Mahiki car should be starting, but as I mentioned, it's currently out ready for race start from the pit lane. But this is ready to go. 2 one-hour races. The first one starting in just a few moments. Right now, over to Adders to talk you through it.
Brian, thanks very much. The grid then is largely formed, as you've been hearing. The Mahiki Janetta number 69, Stephen Lake, the start driver. The car has now presented itself on the pit apron, so that is looking encouraging. And if it starts at the rear of the GT4 grid, it's not a massive loss, to be fair, in a 1-hour race. The engines now fire. 1-minute board is shown. That means everybody to clear the grid. It is Mercedes AMG versus Aston Martin on the front row. It is Charles Dawson versus Giacomo Petrobelli, and we are good to go racing. Joe Osborne joins me in the booth, and it's going to be a really competitive race, that is for sure.
Yeah, and this is the final chance for the drivers just to gather their thoughts, a bit of visualisation. You can see our pole position cars there. The 2 Optimum cars, different classes. We've touched on that already. Our Silver Ram, that lovely Honda NSX, and then our overall pole in Pro-Am, Kiern, Jewiss and Dawson there starting the car. Mega job by Dawson yesterday.
Now, people have been saying, we heard it on the grid, about it can be tough to overtake around here. Assuming that you are in a position to think about an overtake, where are the moves going to come? Where do we need to be looking at?
The big stops of the laps, turns 2, turns 4, and then it is possible to go round the outside underneath the bridge to then claim the inside for turn 9. They're all difficult here because the corner before it is normally a mid to high speed corner, so following in the dirty air is hard, and that just means that gap naturally grows, so then the overtake becomes harder.
So, formation lap is underway, and there you can see the split grids. GT3 will go ahead of GT4. There's normally a couple of rows worth of space just for safety reasons. As Charles Dawson starts on pole position, Giacomo Petrobelli will be with him on the front row of the grid. Kevin Say starts third, and the reigning champion Rob Collard is going to go from fourth, ahead of Mark Smith and then Alex Martin. The fourth row, Simon Orange and Jonny Ip in the Honda that was on the podium at Alton Park. The row 5 is where you find Nick Jones in the Seoul Porsche and Morgan Tillbrook's McLaren. One to watch, I reckon, ahead of Duncan Cameron in the Seoul Ferrari, Andrew Howard's Aston Martin, and newcomer to the McLaren at Optimum, Carl Cavers, switching from Carrera Cup GB back to British GT for a weekend. He rounds out the GT3 grid. Then pole in GT4, Luca Hopkinson alongside Mark Warren, teammates at Optimum. Then you've got Josh Miller and Brandon Templeton in Ginetta and BMW respectively. Ravi Ramyid is on the third GT4 row, and a gap where Stephen Lake would have been. You've got John Curry starting in the repaired Mercedes next. Ian Duggan is alongside him, and Rupert Williams in the Jolt Racing McLaren. Returning to the championship, good to have it back on the grid. That is going to start at the rear. Right, Joe, this is Snetterton.
Yeah, so there's big overtakes. Number 2, Wilson, and then into 4, Agostini. The infield then pretty tight and twisty in these modern GTs. Down the big Bentley straight. The move around 8 into 9 is possible, and then bomb hole, Coram and into Murray's. A very difficult section, 11 and 12. So potentially a pinch point there. If you miss your braking point, the car in front becomes your way of slowing down.
Now, not since 2015 have the drivers winning at Snetterton won the championship. Winning here is almost seen as a poison chalice, and that's pretty bad news as far as the likes of Charles Dawson or Giacomo Petrobelli are concerned, but maybe this is the year that bucks the trend. This is on board then with Orson Dawson, Charles Dawson, winner at Donington. He took maximum points at Silverstone because the car that won ahead of him was not registered for the championship. So as Kiern Jewiss was saying, it was a good start to the season, then it unravelled a little bit, but they've regrouped here. This is Duncan Cameron's rather bumpy view in the Ferrari, and he is towards the rear of that GT3 grid. The British GT Championship has really moved on, I think, since Duncan was last in it. It is massively competitive. The entry might be slightly smaller this year, but even so, it is very, very tight indeed. You're talking thousandths of a second to split cars. Nick Jones with Porsche factory driver Sven Muller as the co-driver in number 66. There it is, the Team Parker Racing 911. And this is Morgan Tillbrook's view from onboard number 77 McLaren as the cars now put themselves in that Noah's Ark 2x2 formation coming out of Coram down towards turn 12. Lorna Vickers, the safety car driver, will head for the pit lane in a moment. This is Josh Miller's view on the second GT4 row of the grid. Safety car will go to the pit lane. Peter Daly, the race director, will keep an eye on everything, and if he's happy, he'll give the instruction to change the lights then to get the first of 2 races here at Snetterton underway. This is round 6 of the British GT Championship. It is Charles Dawson on pole. It is go. It is a good start for the Mercedes as Giacomo Petrobelli tries to rumble up alongside him on the outside, heading down to Riches. Nick Jones on his toes, looking the Porsche on the inside as they all funnel down towards Riches. A little bit of dirt kicked up. Maybe Mark Smith in that pink and black McLaren, not quite so quickly out of the blocks, but it's Dawson in the lead. It's Petrobelli second, Kevin Say third-ish, because round the outside goes Rob Collard. Alex Martin goes round the outside as well, but he's hung out to dry. Mark Smith with the tail-wagging McLaren losing out to him, but look, Dawson's checked out already.
Great start, and look at Miller in GT4. That Ginetta has taken the 2 Optimum McLarens. Could see him on the inside out of turn 1. Great start from the 84 Mahiki car.
Damage on the number 90 McLaren. Looked flapping bodywork on that right rear corner, so there's been a little bit of a brush already, and I just wonder whether that's going to part company or whether the scrutineers are going to get concerned. Here's a replay of the start.
Yeah, is it going to be contact from the front of this Ginetta we're on board with, and then that more yellow McLaren on our left? We go to the inside, we use the pit exit. That is legal. It's a dotted line. It's actually contact between the 2 cars. Hopkinson, for me, goes in a bit hot, misses the apex, and then opens the door for Miller. I apologise to Josh Miller. You were fully innocent. It was don't hit your teammate. Rule number 1 of motorsport.
I can almost hear the cries coming out of the Optimum garage, can't you? But what that has done, he's put the Ginetta in the lead of the class. Then Josh Miller ahead as Charles Dawson leads in GT3 from Petrobelli, from Collard, from Zay, from Martin, from Smith. Then you've got Simon Orange ahead of the Honda in the hands of Jonny. Yep, that's Carl Cavers, currently at the rear of the GT3 part of the pack on the tail of Duncan Cameron. But Charles Dawson doing what he needs to do here to pull away. And bear in mind that Petrobelli in second place won at Spa, ergo gets 10 seconds of extra time to serve in the pit lane by way of success compensation.
Yeah, but Petrobelli fastest out of anyone in that middle sector. Pulled the gap into Dawson by a tenth of a heart. As we see the Lambo with that V10 against the V8 of that Mercedes. It's going to be a drag race, and it's going to be hard to call at this point. You've got Martin against Say. Martin has got the speed, but he's on the outside line. Smith as well looking there. Kevin Say diving to the inside. They're going to go 2 by 2. This is hard to do. Very clean so far. You can see the dirt there going against Martin, and Kevin Say keeps that position. In the meantime, as they still stay side by side, so I thought that was going to be job done. Martin really trying to hang it out round the outside, finally tucks in. But look at Collard. He'd had a good start, and he's actually dropped Kevin Say after overtaking him on that opening lap. Andrew Howard has dropped back in the background. I can see in the number 7 Beach Team Aston Martin.
Nick Jones on the back of the Honda, here he is, so looking for a way by, heading down towards Agostini. So upper place has gone Collard, upper place has gone Martin, upper place has gone Cavers now at the expense of Andrew Howard, and Josh Miller, the big winner, with 2 places gained out of GT4. Jones then on the attack as Kevin Say goes through. Now, he in turn has got Alex Martin behind him. Remember, Say has dropped behind Collard, and he might drop behind the other Barwell Lamborghini before long, as here Morgan Tillbrook 10th goes up the curb. Nick Jones fending him off. Of course, all the drivers in this AM stint hoping to keep in the mix and then give the car in as good a position as they can to their quicker co-driver. It's a sort of minimum drive time really for the AMs here. They want their, in many cases, a factory employed pro to get the car to the end. Dawson and Kiern Jewiss then half a second up at the end of the opening lap of the race, and already track limit warnings are coming, the first of which is for Carl Cavers. On board here with Morgan Tillbrook, down towards the S's, not quite as close as he would like to be by the end of Bentley Straight.
No, he's not. The Porsche's got great traction, obviously, the engine slung in the rear bumper. Interestingly, on the dash there, Tillbrook's got his brake temperatures up 600 degrees, relatively normal, but maybe he's worried something about the brakes. See the rear radar flashing as well, those lights on the rear view camera. At the moment, Orange, the front of this group, really holding them all up, stacking them up, and we know how fast that Honda is in a straight line. Can that car attack into turn 1 now?
So here they come then with the McLaren just ahead of the Honda. Simon Orange under attack. And to the outside line then goes Jonny in the Honda. Is he going to be able to go all the way around the outside? Not quite. Simon Orange then just about hangs on to the place. Orange pressed by the Honda at the minute, but as they come up towards the Wilson hairpin, it needs to be careful as well, because he's got Nick Jones not that far behind him. Now, Dawson and Petrobelli for the race lead have certainly got away from Rob Collard in 3rd place, and Petrobelli did the fastest lap last time around. In other words, he, now that the tyres have switched on, is coming back at that leading Mercedes AMG. The gap half a second starting this, the 3rd lap.
Yeah, 2/10 quicker was that green Aston Martin ahead, lap time-wise, of that blue Mercedes. Collard a second a lap slower, even in clear air. So is it going to be a 2-horse race, or is Collard just starting to get that car in its operating window?
We are on lap 3, and Carl Cavers, I'm afraid to say, is on his 3rd track limit warning already. So the team need to be on the radio to him to say somehow wind it back. I know he's new to the car and he's still learning and all of that, but the danger is they're going to be in real strife on track limit penalties even before the pit stops.
It was all on the same lap as well. It was turn 3, 5, 7, right, all in quick succession. So you're right, the team need to be right on him. It does look like Hopkinson is starting to get Miller back in after that strong start. You could hear one of the cars just locking. That would be a bit of a concern. The ABS should be controlling that under braking, but Hopkinson 7/10 quicker than anyone yesterday. As we see, Orange has lost that place, hasn't he, to it, and still has no pace. Nick Jones bunched up behind, Tillbrook there, Cameron there, and actually Cavers on the back with Andrew Howard not too far behind.
Yeah, Nick Jones on the attack, as you say, in the Porsche, and right there behind him is Morgan Tillbrook, and Duncan Cameron is in that mix as well. This might be towards the end of the GT3 line of cars, but it's still quite a fierce fight, and you can see now that he's been released how the margin is starting to open up now that Ip has got ahead of Orange, who is once again coming under attack. Nick Jones in the Porsche, he will give way to Sven Muller, Porsche factory driver. This is Morgan Tillbrook's view. He will give way to McLaren factory driver Marvin Kirchhöfer. The lead gap has crept up a little bit, 0.8 of a second. But where would the 10 seconds extra time in the pits drop Petrobelli? Well, it's a slightly erroneous question for now, because the gaps will stretch over the course of the stint, but it would certainly throw him down the limit as over the timing line comes 84 Ginetta. So that leading the class is Josh Miller, and he's just picked up a track limit warning as well. Plus, he's now got Luca Hopkinson right up behind him. Through they turn, and the margin at the start of this lap was 0.293 of a second. And so far, the good news for Mark Warren, nobody seems overly worried about the flapping bodywork.
No, it's a light enough part where I don't think the scrutineers will be deeming that a dangerous piece of bodywork. The team will most probably just rip it off in the pit stop, I think, rather than tape it. Miller starting to struggle with the front of that Ginetta, it seems. He's trying to open these corners goes up, Hopkinson will be weighing up where he's stronger. Just remember these track limits. It's a matter of fact here at Snetterton. There's pressure sensors on the exit of 7 of the corners, and that's why we see them so prevalent here. Once you've done your 5th track limit warning, that will attract a penalty.
So nose to tail pretty much in GT4 for the category lead. Ginetta versus McLaren. This kind of suggests, does it not, Mahiki did the right thing in moving to a tried and tested car like the Ginetta G56 GT4. That's Brandon Templeton in the BMW fight. This inter-Nissan contest putting him ahead of Ravi Ramyeed. And as we discussed on the grid, of course, the second of those BMWs is the better placed in the championship. Now, the incident on the first lap between number 90 of Mark Warren and number 14 has been noted. Now, 14 is Brandon Templeton. I don't think they mean 14, I think they mean 17, but anyway, it's being looked at. And there is number 17 McLaren, which not only did some damage to its teammate, but also allowed the Ginetta through into the lead. So Luca Hopkinson may have a word or two from the team about that. A, driving into the teammate, but B, while they were doing that, you gave the lead to a rival squad with the Ginetta.
Yeah, I'm sure it's 17 they mean, but 14 was directly behind, so unless we missed something else on that opening lap, but that'd be hard for team manager Jamie Wall from Optum to go and argue both sides of the story. They'll have two very different caps there, but I think it was enough to be deemed a racing incident, and it would actually be more of an internal issue rather than a race official issue.
They have now said it is car 17 and no further action, so you are, as ever, Osborne, right. It is a racing incident. There's number 14, totally innocent of anything, and Brandon Templeton is at the wheel of the car currently in 3rd in his class within GT4. Right, that is the lead battle getting ever tighter. Out of the hairpin they come.
Yeah, again, Miller's having to go in very deep to these corners, trying to go for a later apex. I think that is because the front of the car seems to be relatively uncompliant. He isn't able to chuck the car where he wants to. He's having to trail the braking longer, almost more of a Porsche style, that is, V'ing the corners off. As we go back to our overall race leader, Dawson definitely has steadied the ship. Last lap was the fastest lap of the race, a 49.199. Petrobelli only a 10th slower than that. But at the moment, Petrobelli doesn't seem to stay with him. The only thing with that 2Cs car carrying slightly more weight than the other GT3s, is it going to work its tyres and brakes harder over this 1 hour sprint?
Now there is Rob Collard. Now the Barwell team saying that the car is normally pretty good around here, but maybe the BOP this year not quite so favourable in the hot conditions, and maybe the temperature is fooling lots of people in different ways. And Mark Lemmert, team principal, suggesting that points will be good, win might be a bit harder to find, but equally you never know in British GT. Kevin Say in the meantime has kind of stabilised after losing 3rd place, but he's repelling the challenge of Alex Martin, is he not? And then in 6th place Mark Smith in that McLaren behind. The lead gap is creeping up. It's 11 tenths now, Dawson to Petrobelli, but even though Charles Dawson has set the fastest lap, a 1:49.003, he's not disappearing up the road. And a hat tip to Mark Smith, because he has certainly come on a pace over the last 18 months. He's been doing not only British GT, but also racing in the GT Cup, where he gets a lot of individual track time, even in the longer races, sometimes 4 races to a weekend. So the extra mileage that he's getting, all paying dividends for the American driver. And this is perhaps the most competitive we've ever seen him.
He's the lead McLaren right now. I'm not sure we've ever said that about Mark Smith. So I totally agree with your sentiment. He's also flying over from America for this, and that's what the team has said, that the jet lag was very difficult. He's got better at getting used to that. Paul Lip there, you can see the heat coming out the front of these cars today. They're working very hard. They're right on the top level of their cooling, as Tillbrook still really not able to get going after a problem in qualifying with that spin. I agreed with your statement at the start of the race that he would be going forward, but at the moment no pace. Every time we go on board with him, the car doesn't look particularly nice. It looks quite nervous on the rear. There's lots of micro movements on the steering wheel. Is that car starting to become a bit of a Kirchhöfer special? We've seen how fast he is in it. Have they taken away some of the AM drivability? This GT4 battle seems to have stabilised, doesn't it? Hopkinson not really getting any closer. Gap 7.5 tenths last time by. Maybe Miller's just starting to work out where the strengths and weaknesses are of that Ginetta. Of course, mid-season car change, so difficult for these drivers. So every lap Miller's doing, he's still learning about that car, where Hopkinson knows that McLaren Artura much, much better.
Fastest lap of the race now, by the way, Rob Collard in 3rd position. He's got 3 seconds to make up before he can attack the top 2. Now this car started in the pits, don't forget, Stephen Lake's Ginetta. He has now caught and passed the Rupert Williams Jolt Racing McLaren. So Stephen Lake up from the rear. He has gained a place and in fact pulled a long way clear of the McLaren. So having to do the chasing, he has now come good. There is 88, the sister Ginetta, 19th, Ian Duggan at the wheel. Look in the background. Collard on a mission. Charles Dawson has just done an absolute best first sector, but there, number 1, Lamborghini, that is the car with the fastest lap of the race thus far. Rob Collard has done many a lap round Snetterton in all sorts of manifestations. The old circuit, the current 300 configuration, and all of the experience being put to good use. The reigning champion, who was one of a number of British GT drivers to do the recent 24 Hours of Spa, threads his way now up through Hamilton on towards Oggies, and the next corner is going to be Williams in sector 1 of the lap. He dropped a little bit of time to the leader, but is still catching the Aston Martin of Giacomo Petrobelli for second place.
Yeah, fastest lap taken from Dawson by 0.02 of a second. So we talk about BOP, Mark Lemmer getting his small violin out, but I would say the BOP looking pretty good there. And actually Kevin Say looks to be quite strong as well. That gap at the moment, we see Ip off at the moment. That's onto the back straight. Is that just he was by himself? I think he would have lost the rear coming on the exit. We saw that yesterday in qualifying with Curry. The driver's so scared of the track limit sensors, sometimes they're having to manipulate their lines.
So he's rejoined. That's going to cost quite a lot of ground. It's going to throw him from 7th down to 13th position then. And Jonny Ip, who has been rapid this season, goes through...
He's lost the end plate on the right side of the wing is the only interesting part. So there might have been contact with something at some point, but that end plate of the wing, that really helps the air stay efficient on that rear wing.
And it looked a really nervous car coming through the S's there, didn't it? So it wouldn't be a surprise necessarily to see the car picked, but that's going to need a new rear wing, and it's going to perhaps need a whole new rear section, and that's just going to take a lot of time. So they're really up against it now.
Yeah, and that then gives the lead in Silver Am to the Beechdene Aston. So the two blue cars at the tail end of GT3, our Silver Am contenders, have now swapped round because of that. I don't think they'll be able to fix that in the pit stop. That end plate's probably pulled all the thread out, and so that isn't a tape job there. So they're going to have to live with that one. That's going to be difficult for the remaining 46.5 minutes.
It is, because it's important aero, and the car continuing, it lost round about 20 seconds or so on that last lap, so very time consuming, and it's dropped it to last outright in GT3, and as you say, second in the Silver Am. A big dive was going on there, was it not, up the inside of the McLaren Duncan Cameron, I think, thinking about making a move as they went into the corner. So this is the Honda recovering, second in Silver Am, into the right of Agostini. Jonny Ip, who raced in this country in single-seater, club-level single-seaters to get a bit of experience. Yes, the move has been a successful one, look, because Duncan Cameron has got ahead of Morgan Tillbrook. So Morgan, what's going on here? We were tipping you pre-race to go forward. If anything, he's losing out on Carl Cavers now. Comes up onto the tail of the number 77 Optimum car. So as they run now down into the left-hander of the first part of the S's. They're out of the same stable, those cars, different liveries, of course, but Morgan Tillbrook's car losing a place, not being able to really do anything about gaining the ground back, and coming under more threat. There's a McLaren and an Aston right on his shoulder. Yeah,
seasoned and Morgan Tillbrook not in a happy place against Carl Cavers, like you said, first time in the Optimum McLaren, so he will not be happy. Kirchhöfer has got a lot of work to do from 10th place at the moment.
Does indeed, as they come out of Coram. Right, into the turn 12 left-hander heading up towards the timing line. Up front, the lead gap has crept up to 1.4 seconds. Duncan Cameron then now in that Ferrari goes by, and as he does so, he is up into 9th place. Morgan Tillbrook down to 10th. Now, don't forget, we've got the pit window for the GT3 cars opening after 22 minutes, so we're not that far away from that in real terms. As you see the McLaren there just kicking up the dirt. Now, how did he lose the place? Well, Duncan Cameron teed this up really well. He was coming from a fair way back, look, heading down towards Agostini, and it was a pretty late dive, and Morgan Tillbrook left the door open. Was there contact? Not quite, but I think that caught Morgan by surprise.
What a move. We said turn 4 was an overtaking spot, and this is Morgan Tillbrook. Let's see if he sees him. You can see by his steering input, it looks okay, and then suddenly Ferrari, and actually I think he saw him and there wasn't any contact, was there? I couldn't feel a bang there, but great move from Duncan Cameron. Absolutely. Showing the pros how to do it. And that AF course Ferrari looking like it's got strong pace, because it's dropped that McLaren by a couple of seconds already.
Yeah, it shows the difference, doesn't it, of running in clear air or being stuck in traffic, and as soon as he's been released, yeah, Duncan Cameron is flying, but he may well get onto the tail of yet more traffic, because there is Nick Jones' Porsche up the road, and the two McLarens have dropped Andrew Howard, haven't they? Remember, that was a three-way battle pack about a lap ago, and Andrew Howard's car has suddenly dropped off the back. Now, is that partly because if you're in a train of cars like that, you're going to end up overheating, and you just need to perhaps get in some clear air for a little while?
Yeah, exactly what Carl Cavers is doing in that green McLaren, is just trying to get some clean air to everything, to the water temp, the oil temp, the brake temp, as this battle still sits at under a second, and And again, Miller just looks like he's happy with the car. Hopkinson may be content just to sit behind and let this go into the pit stop fight, then into the second half of the race.
And in the background, third is Mark Warren, who doesn't have any extra time to serve in the pits. And in fourth place is former GB4 racer Brandon Templeton in that black BMW. So that's your class lead. And the margin has just stretched a touch as the Ginetta continues to look strong. And there, in second place, is Luca Hopkinson. So that, as a silver entry within GT4, gets a further 14 seconds. Josh Miller also gets 14 seconds. That's another silver entry. So they're going to get longer pit stops. You've got to say, in GT4 right now, it's advantage to the number 90, Mark Warren, Jack Brown McLaren, because it's in touch. There it is in the background, but that will buy back the lead when these two serve their longer pit stops.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage. And again, these silver cars carrying more weight, like our overall race leader, 25 kilos, and that all starts to hurt later on in the race. We may see some tyre changes in GT3, but I don't expect it in GT4. They've got 5 wheel studs versus 1, so it's a much longer pit stop as we go on board with the 90 McLaren here. And Mark Warren, one of the shiniest bronze graded drivers out there, and the illustration of that is how close he is to the overall lead battle, and that's why, correctly David, he's going to inherit the race lead if it stays like this.
Goes now through turn 1, back onto the power, and out of Rich's the run now up towards Wilson Hairpin. And the McLaren is fighting back, is it not? Because the margin was 9/10 when they came across the stripe. Late on the brakes was Luca Hopkinson, and the net result is that forces him out wide, really. The car washes out a little bit coming out of turn 2, so it is still advantage to Josh Miller. He accelerates then now along the short run down towards Agostini, and the Mahiki run Ginetta in the lead of the class. Remember that he now has Jack Mitchell as his co-driver, Aidan Neate having stood down from earlier on in the year. That is 42, Charles Dawson the race leader, and 1.2 seconds was the margin as they're coming up now in the traffic to the Team Parker Mercedes of John Curry. 20th overall, lead gap 1.2 seconds, and on the last lap, Petrobelli did another new fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, very nice timing there for race leader. Dawson gets past the same car, Mercedes AMG, but of course GT3 versus GT4, yellow headlights, the easiest way to distinguish, and there's a great illustration. Look at the aero difference between 3 and 4, but Petrobelli now compromised there, and the Mercedes doing the right thing at Curry, just taking his line, but this will lose a lot of time to Petrobelli. I think that could be 7 or 8 tenths of a second lost, and Dawson will be a small smile behind that crash helmet as he thunders onto the Bentley straight.
With that pit window getting ever closer. So it's going to be Kiern Jewiss versus Jonny Adam into the second stint. Rob Collard has not really been able to make that ground up, has he? His last lap was a slower one. Now, okay, there are 1 or 2 other back markers that they've had to dodge around, but the number 1 Lamborghini, there it is in the background. Number 1 coming towards us with the headlights ablaze. Rob Collard not being able to get onto terms with the top 2. Kevin Say next. Alex Martin tucked up behind him, and straight on goes Collard. Misses his braking point at the end of Bentley Straight, goes up the escape road. Is there a gap? Kind of, but he's going to rejoin behind his teammate. So costly for Collard. It's cost him 2 places.
Yeah, and just missed the braking point ever so slightly. Would have felt the rear was nervous, and if he had turned in the car, probably would have spun, and that would have been worse. The drivers are told to do exactly what Rob Collard's just done there, is go straight on and rejoin safely. It didn't look like it was going to be safe for a split second because that dirty tarmac was making me understeer, and I thought he might go in the side of the Mercedes or the sister Lamborghini. He did a good job, but that is going to be a huge time loss. He'd been running in the 1:49's lap time, and last time by he now did a 55, so 5 to 6 seconds lost as Kevin Say gets past the back marking GT4 car now.
And there in the background is the recovering Rob Collard. So that last lap was for Rob a 1:56, so it cost him about 6 to 7, very nearly 8 seconds, and he's trying to regroup, and that's a big frustration heading to the pit stop window. The number 1 Lamborghini then will be given over to Hugo Cook, and that car has 5 extra seconds to serve, so there's time lost straight away.
Yeah, so suddenly he's lost 10 seconds effectively, it will feel like, and as a driver you're looking for margins of 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap, so to lose 5 or 6 in one chunk will be very, very upsetting for Rob Collard, and a very un-Rob Collard-like mistake.
Absolutely right. Kevin Say, in the meantime, hanging on to third. Meanwhile, Carl Cavers ahead of Andrew Howard here. Andrew back into the lead, as we saw, of Silver Am. Jonny Ip in the Honda trying to close back up. He's chipping away, getting ever nearer as the cars come down towards Agostini. But the GT3 pit window starts at the end of 22 minutes of the race, and we're nearly there. So potentially at the end of this lap, you're going to have a whole wave of cars heading into the pit lane.
Yeah, it's looking very close if the race leaders will be able to take it. The pit window opens on the pit entry line, so it's earlier than the finish line, so it's a bit of a headache for the teams, and I don't think the first two are going to be able to take it because they're at the last corner already. So is this actually going to be a slight advantage for the cars slightly further back? Pit window open in 10 seconds, they can get an extra lap for their pro, and I think Rob Collard's car may be able to do it as well.
Yeah, he's probably just about going to be okay. The window is open now, and the leaders are in. That's beautifully timed, because now when they get to the pit in line, the lane had been opened, the window had been opened by 6 seconds, so perfectly timed by the leading cars. No, in fact, the leading cars did miss it. I'm looking at the Kevin Say and Alex Martin cars that have come in. Right, so the top two do another lap, but there you've got third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and back, all able to take advantage. So this may well, as Joe suggests, go against the two leaders, in that there is one fewer lap for the pro to be able to do against the pros in the other cars. Carl Cavers, incidentally, stayed out for another lap as well in number 3 McLaren. So Dawson and Petrobelli had to stay out because they were not quite there in time.
Yeah, Morgan Tillbrook coming in. I think they left Cavers out because Barwell boxing both cars makes it very difficult here, because they will push back and potentially block Collard in for a second. They are changing tyres. They're really tight there, Barwell. They might have stood on their own toes, as you see Kevin Say pushing back. The car has to leave immediately. It cannot sit there and do that. It's actually going to get blocked in potentially by Martin. They're all trying to select first gear. Championship organiser Lauren Granville in the white shirt there, looking on, making sure this is all above board. At the moment, I would say everyone has escaped a penalty thus far. We saw it last year, cars getting blocked in. So far, everyone has done a good job.
Yeah, drivers trying to select a gear. There's the Porsche being pushed back. That's slightly impeded by the McLaren and Marcus Clatten trying to find a gear. Right, so Maxi Gert stays ahead of Sandy Mitchell, and the McLaren there, look, of Mark Smith, now Martin Plowman ahead of the Lamborghini of Hugo Cook. That's a change, as Tom Wood takes number 97 back into the race and will stay ahead of the Honda. So the one significant change really has been for Martin Plowman to get ahead of number 1 Lamborghini. Now the top two come in. So Kiern Jewiss runs around the side of the car, and also ready to jump on board the Aston Martin will be Jonny Adam. GT4 cars have to wait for another 4 minutes before their window opens.
Yeah, so this is outlap of pros versus in-lap of AMs. Expect that to be a 2.5 second swing. I expect these cars still to be leading. Collard, interestingly, lost 6 seconds in that pit stop for no apparent reason. We saw them changing tyres. Was there a problem on the tyre change? 2C's getting to work at the moment. They'll be well versed after a busy Spa 24 hours, winning the gold class with an Aston Martin. That same pit crew on that car drops down. Jonny Adam now in the car. Petrobelli putting the window net in. The windscreen clean going on. Minimum pit stop time 70 seconds, but both these cars have more, 5 seconds extra for this, and then 10 seconds extra for the 2C's car.
Yeah, 75 is the base for GT3, and then the extra 5 for the Aston, an extra 10 for the Aston. No extra time for the Mercedes AMG there, that he's going to be able to rumble down the pit lane. So back into the race will go 42 with an enhanced advantage. But now we'll see where these cars are going to blend back in relative to the Aston. These cars being Mercedes AMG for Maxi Gertz, and there's the Aston on the way, and then behind is the Lamborghini of Sandy Mitchell. This, I think, is going to give Kiern Jewiss a whopping advantage, but for second place, it's a big question mark. Here comes Gertz. Jonny Adam is in the pit lane. He accelerates away now, but he loses second place with the extra length of the stop. He loses third place as well to Mitchell. So Jonny Adam goes fourth now into turn 1. So that means that there is a really impressive advantage of 13.7 seconds, it feels, between Jewiss and Gertz. They are teammates at 2Cs, and Kiern Jewiss just has to bring it home now.
Yeah, it should be easy for them at the moment. They should just bring it home without any drama whatsoever.
As the Porsche going through, Sven Müller out the wheel, having relayed Nick Jones. And as there, number 3 goes by, that's now Callum McLeod. So Carl Gavers was a late stopper, and off the road goes 97. That is Tom Wood, who just gets as far as the barrier at the end, really, of his first flying lap. So Tom Wood has had a big lose going into Rich's big spin. He's able to hook a gear and get going, but that's a weird one because Tom Wood doesn't often make mistakes like that. He's a very handy driver, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, the car just snapped away from him.
Yeah, he wasn't really near anyone coming across the start line either into turn 1. He'd just gone past Ravi Ramreed in GT4. He was half a second clear of him. Is that just this first attack there? Some rear damage. Don't know if that was already on the car, but on the timing screen, he was clear across the start line. What have we got here? We're going to see him shoot into shot round the right. And one of the McLarens was near him. And, that must have been leaving pit lane. That's why I can't see it on the timing screen. The damage has come here. And 77, look at it, it's just a complete loss by himself. Rear left, really loose. He looked like he was on the racing line. Didn't particularly look like he'd made a major issue, but the car snapping ever so violently on him.
Right, this is the leader then. It's now 42 in the hands of Kiern Jewiss. So the same car leads the race, but now with the second driver aboard. Kiern Jewiss, that we heard from on the grid, leads the way. 14 laps in the book, 33 minutes of the race to go, and he's absolutely out clear. But Maxi Gert's first flying lap is the best of the race at 1:47.438. Now this is going to be interesting. Donington, think back to the opening round of the championship. You had the 2Cs Mercedes, Jewiss and Gertz almost together when they left the pit, and Gertz dropped back and actually fell into 3rd place at the checkered flag. But here, straight off, he's on the attack, and the gap as a starting point is 10.3 seconds between the top 2 cars.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard at the moment for anyone to reply to Jewiss. I think, yes, the times are different, but I think that's Jewiss maybe just settling in, looking after the tyres. We saw a tyre change going on for that now Maxi Gott's driven. So you have the new tyre hit, but that fades after 2 or 3 laps, and then I expect the lap times then to start to settle.
Behind Maxi Gertz, who's a Mercedes AMG factory driver here, 78 Sandy Mitchell, Lamborghini factory driver, chased by Aston Martin factory driver Jonny Adam. And then in 5th place now is Martin Plowman in the black and pink number 9 McLaren. The Honda is trying to get itself up through the traffic. The lead gap in GT4 has suddenly stretched out, and therefore the gap 2nd to 3rd has come right down as Marvin Kirchhöfer there goes ahead of Callum McLeod.
Yeah, and Callum McLeod made that very easy, didn't he? Fully lifted off the throttle. Slightly surprised by that. And again, we've got traffic in between. But yeah, Hopkinson has lost the back of Miller by 3.5 seconds and is still losing time with traffic coming through. GT4 pit window now open. Silver cars aren't so desperate to box, but expect Mark Warren in the 3rd place car, our leader in Pro-Am, that white and yellow car that we can see now in our shot, to box at the end of this lap.
And don't for a moment think that Mark Warren is slow either, but Jack Brown can get into that car and have a good long stint up towards the end of the race. Mark Warren still with that flapping bodywork, coming now onto Bentley Straight. The race has 31 minutes and change on the clock. There is 69, that's Stephen Lake in. And he will give over that car to Blake Anglis. His first British GT Championship race as they're going by is the number 17 McLaren. Mark Warren closing up all the while. But Kiern Jewiss, then, the race leader, has now done the fastest lap of the race at 1:46.8. The gap was 10.3. The gap is now 10.9. So Jewiss gets himself into a rhythm and then flicks the switch, starts to pull away. And that's going to be a bit of a kick again to Maxi Gertz, because, come on, I'm the Mercedes star here. And Kiern Jewiss, who is not a Mercedes factory driver, is quicker than him. Big slide from the McLaren there. That was Luca Hopkinson getting a bit ragged as into the pits as soon as the window opens and he's available to come in. Mark Warren to give way to Jack Brown, and this ought to win GT4, because there the opposition behind number 71 BMW will have a pit stop longer by 10 seconds because they won at Spa last time out.
Yeah, really good entry there from Warren. He overslowed a bit. You could see the speed drop to 20, so you want to try and stay at 40 for as long as you can. They are going to do tyres on the Optimum car, so they're happy with that. The Lake car now driven by Anglis has gone. It was good pace from Stephen Lake. His fastest lap, less than 1.5 seconds off Miller leading. So we're talking about shiny AMs in Warren. Steve Lake very happy with his lap time there as well. As you can see, the driver change going on. Drivers helping each other. Jack Brown now in Optimum, getting all 5 5 wheel studs off. You can see the gun there. It has a very long socket that captures all 5 wheel nuts into it and then unloads them straight on, so it saves the mechanics having to fumble around putting new wheel nuts on.
One thing that has happened in the last 2 or 3 minutes is that it suddenly got quite cloudy and the temperature has dropped, so it's a bit more overcast than it was at the start of the race, and it feels fractionally cooler in our rather warm commentary booth, and I just wonder whether that little drop in temperature might be doing anything on track.
Yeah, it'll make the track come back alive as soon as the shade comes over. You pick up some grip and you go faster. It will obviously help everyone relatively evenly, so I don't think we'll see a swing in pace. It's not like Spa 24 Hour when you go into the night, suddenly the track drops 20 degrees and you can see a difference then. But a bit of damage on the front left for Miller's car. I wonder if he's just had a nibble of the tyre stack on the inside of Hamilton that caught Harry George out yesterday after his very pointy front end McLaren clouted that.
And behind is the recovering Tom Wood, trying to make amends for that spin. Now, what has that done to our Silver AM battle? It's put the Honda back ahead of the Aston, hasn't it, after they've had a spin each. Up towards the line, this is where the GT3 Aston ought to be able to just rumble by easily. It does. Ginetta staying out then, so Josh Miller hangs on as in comes Luca Hopkinson to give way to Harry George. What's going on behind? You've got Brandon Templeton staying out as well in the BMW. So the Silver's going a little bit longer, except for 17, rolling the dice early. And again, Optimum pitting the cars on different laps so they don't have double stacking in the GT4 part of the grid.
Yeah, making their lives as easy as possible for themselves. And Harry George now running in. And luckily in British GT, you do get a warm-up. You can see the contact around the number panel there. That was of the sister car. So brand new tyres as well going on for Harry George. You can see the stickers and the releasing agent on it. So expect him to have the pace of a 1.5 to 2 seconds lap faster for the first 2 to 3 laps of his stint. Will that help him try and fight back against the sister car and anything about the 84 Mahiki Ginetta?
Kiern Jewiss, meanwhile, has gone through for another lap in the overall race lead. So Harry George on board number 17. That car will be released at the end of its regulation pit stop time, which is 105 seconds for a GT4 car, plus, in this case, an extra 14, not because of success, but of the fact that both drivers are graded silver.
So on board with Jack Brown taking over for Mark Warren, who's settled himself in well, pace looking good down this long straight. He'll be picking his braking point just around the 2 board on the right. Got to get down 4 gears while turning to the left. The car's trying to throw you right. This big sausage curb on the inside as well, pretty fearsome, as is the track limit sensor on the exit through Bomb Hole. Where's this car going to be? It should be well clear of the sister car by the time they've optimized their pit stop. You can see the tape on the rear right. They decided to take that bodywork down. They're ready for the pushback there. Only 4 mechanics can push the car back, and with that Artura, it has to be done in neutral. Then the driver selects first gear as we see the cars blast past. This is going to be a race on pit exit, but the speed and time delta is with this 90 car.
So it's going to benefit by at least 1 place and should benefit to get the class lead when the Ginetta pits. So there you can see what 14 seconds extra does in the pits. Big gap, and in fact the McLaren losing out to 71 BMW. There were 4 seconds difference on their regulation pit stop times. So 17 came in second. It will now be 4th in the class, and here going through the regulation stop is 84 Ginetta, so that was leading in GT4 when it came in. It is unlikely to be leading the other side of the pit stop. Josh Miller then gives way.
You can see the
damage on the front there as well, yeah.
Yeah, it does look like the tyre stack, just bodywork. Hopefully hasn't knocked the toe out. Jack Mitchell getting in very quick. You can see the panel gap has been adjusted, hasn't it? And yeah, Jack Mitchell dating daughter, Amy Tomlinson, the daughter of owner of Ginetta, Lawrence Tomlinson, so I'm sure he knows that Ginetta G56 rather well. Pit stop, very relaxed and silver, isn't it, with that extra time?
He knows how to get cheap parts as well, are you suggesting? Yeah, hey love, can we do a deal? Meanwhile, as number 90, Jack Brown, accelerates up through the exit now of Williams onto Bentley Straight. This is the car that is now most likely to score honours in GT4. You can see the attention on that front left corner. Not only is there the witness mark on the bodywork, but they want to make sure nothing is broken, nothing is loose, nothing is going to pull apart during the remainder of the stint. So that's had a lot of attention, that left front corner, to make sure the confidence is there for team and driver to send the car back out.
Yeah, I think Jamie there, the mechanic, just checking the wheel bearing, making sure there's no play in it, top to bottom, right to left. and go back on board. The balance looking so good with this 90 car every time we jump on board, although we did have that snap of oversteer in qualifying yesterday, didn't we, where we saw Jack Brown turn into a farmer. The mechanics run clear, car now released, and this is the battle, but that silver penalty is just going to drop them behind this new GT4 race leader.
Jack Brown up to the line. There's a curb-hopping Charlie Robertson in the background, so it's now going to be McLaren versus BMW, and the Ginetta will feed back in third, potentially. It accelerates away now. Here comes the BMW at proper race pace. And very careful not to cut the white line there was in 84, the incoming driver, Jack Mitchell, sort of went for the line for the corner, then had to think second of it and back out. So now you've got Jack Brown ahead of Charlie Robertson. The margin between them is around the 7-second mark, and down to third after the longer pit stop, deliberately longer pit stop, is 84 Jack Mitchell. So it's going to be a really interesting second stint, I think, in GT4, but this is the car that leads the way. It is Jack Brown at the wheel of it, Mark Warren doing everything that he had to do in the first stint, stay in the mix, and you see also in the pit stop they put a bit of sticky tape down on that flapping bodywork. So now Mark Warren can watch Jack Brown bring it home, and while he's doing that, he can have a word with Bryn Lucas in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's definitely the idea, bringing it home for Jack Brown. We know how consistent Jack is out on track. Mark, just talk us through your opening lap, though, because what we always say is don't bang into your teammate, and it was your teammate, Luca Hopkinson, who decided to rub paintwork with you.
It was the one thing we absolutely agreed we wouldn't do. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't spoken to Luca yet. There was a lot of dust kicked up at turn 1 from the GT3s, like a huge amount. I suspect he's just got a little slide and touched me. So it was unfortunate, but ultimately no harm done, so we're okay.
Yeah, you got away with that one, I think, is the way it goes. Brandon Templeton's still got a pit in the Century BMW, but it looks like you're going to inherit the net lead.
I think so, from what I've seen, and so now Jack can just get his head down. The car felt pretty good. The brakes obviously were suffering a little bit, so we were just having to bring the braking points back a little bit. Otherwise, car felt pretty consistent.
So far, so good. Well done.
Thanks.
So on board with Jack Brown, GT4 leader. This, meanwhile, is for second place. This is Gertz versus Mitchell. This is Donington all over again, isn't it? This was the order they came out of the pits in, second and third. Mercedes ahead of Lamborghini, and it was Sandy Mitchell that got ahead. So this is where Maxi Gertz needs to stay ahead, kind of really to preserve his reputation. He's here on the Mercedes AMG payroll. He's a factory driver. A Mercedes factory driver doesn't want to be letting a Lamborghini factory driver through, especially given that you've got Kiern Jewiss getting away up the road. Brandon Templeton gives way to Chris Salkeld there, who sprints around the car to jump on board. They got themselves by staying out late into a notional class lead, but that all, of course, now is going to restore itself as Jewiss leads by 13 seconds. It was 10.3 when the stint started, and part of this is because Gertz is busy trying to defend a 7/10 of the second advantage over Sandy Mitchell. Chris Salkeld will get on board the BMW, but now it's all eyes on second place. Gertz versus Mitchell in GT3.
Gertz lost 1.8 seconds on that last lap. I didn't see any traffic, and I don't think he's actively defending from Mitchell. We have half an eye on him, but Jewis's pace is strong, or his pace is weak. It's hard to call, but he's definitely holding up Sandy Mitchell. This is the gap that we're used to seeing GT3 cars at now, in the dirty air, unable to keep the front planted as the dirty air comes off the car in front, not only allowing the perfect amount of downforce. So Mitchell will just be working out where this Lamborghini, where here, stronger than the Mercedes in front. I think the team would have told him, just need to keep an eye on we saw Rob Collar go straight on under the bridge. The team reporting that was an ABS failure, so the Lamborghini will be relatively scared of that issue potentially.
Race leader just going through shot, Kiern Jewiss. Then you can see the gap and the weight before second and third come into view. So Kiern Jewiss long gone. This is second, number 18 Mercedes. The German driver Maxi Gertz. Their third, Scotsman Sandy Mitchell. And in fourth place here is Jonny Adam, whose last lap was quicker than the two ahead, but only by fractions of a second. That's the leading four then. This is fifth here, the black and pink McLaren of Martin Plowman. Sixth behind number one is Hugo Cook. And seventh, diving up the inside of the traffic, Marcus Clutton. Eighth is the Porsche here of Sven Muller, and then for ninth place Matt Griffin in the Ferrari, and that's the car coming towards you right now.
Yeah, and a very lonely 10th position for Kirchhöfer, hiding behind that Mihiki Ginetta at the moment as he pops to the inside. We go on board, and awkward there. Blake Anglis trying to give him space. Kirchhöfer didn't expect him to, so they both just kind of lost time for no reason. Now we blast past on the inside. Our pole sitter from the British GT round at Spa. Our pole sitter by 0.4 of a second at the 24 hours of Spa. Marvin Kirchhöfer working hard to try and raise the stock. And again, he's still got the brake temp laps on. Optimum weren't happy with me picking up on their tyre pressures yesterday in qualifying. I could see on their dash, maybe they're trying to hide some more data from us at the moment.
So up a place then goes Marvin Kirchhöfer. You can't really say it's a tough day for McLaren because the Paddock Motorsport car is 5th. That's doing really well in contrast. So something that maybe Optimum is struggling with, and the car didn't look all that compliant in the hands of Morgan Tillbrook. Bit of dust settling as Marvin Kirchhöfer runs up now into turn 2. There, meanwhile, is Hugo Cook under attack from Marcus Classen, the man from Northwich against the man from Oldham. So there's a good north-west battle going on. Now, in GT4, here's your leader, number 90 McLaren. So that is Jack Brown at the wheel. Second is this BMW, 71. It's Charlie Robertson now at the wheel, and the margin was 6 seconds at the start of the lap. Third in GT4, 84 Ginetta, Jack Mitchell at the wheel. Fourth in GT4 there, number 17 McLaren, Harry George. Fifth in GT4, the BMW in the background, and that is Chris Salkeld.
Yeah, interestingly, the 71 car, second overall, the BMW, the sister car to the one we're looking at, team manager called to race control. They just had a black and white flag for track limits, and that's the normal procedure, isn't it? Then you do the next one. There it is on the screen. That's bad news. I think that's going to be a penalty. And
most of those, in fairness, will have been done presumably by Ravi Ramyeed, who was in for longer than Charlie Robertson has been, but it's for the car, and they don't get reset in a 1-hour race. So, you know, it doesn't really matter which driver racks them up, because ultimately you're going to be penalised. But the frustration is that the driver in now may end up doing or serving a penalty, largely incurred by the driver that is no longer in the car. Being held up a little bit there in the traffic, you saw the 2C's Mercedes, but we await to see what comes next for BMW 71, which could have quite an impact on the outcome of GT4, not only in the race, but in the championship. Yeah, I actually think it's been more Charlie Robson. I think he's done 3 track limits to Ravi Ramyeed's 2, but you are a team, like you said, so it doesn't matter. It all adds up, and the stewards don't really care who's done it. It's how many that car's done. Hugo Cook, in the meantime, trying to get through the traffic. He's shaken off the challenger Marcus Classen, gets up the inside of Chris Salkeld there in the BMW that's forced offline, but slots into the queue of cars now. Clatten up the inside line in 67, and he will go by as well. Meanwhile, lead gaps come back down again as Mark Lemmer and nearest to you, Rob Collard, watch on. Mark Lemmer runs Barwell Motorsport. Rob Collard, the first driver of number 1, so he's done his stint in this race. Lead gap had gone up to 13 seconds. It's come back down again to 10, but it's fluctuating a little bit. Some of this might be the traffic, because even though it's come down, still in the 47s last time, Jewiss fractionally quicker. So it's a bit elasticated depending on where really the leader finds slower cars on the circuit. Yeah, and Gotts has picked up some pace. He's now 1.6 ahead of Sandy Mitchell, so maybe Mitchell doesn't have the pace, but Jewiss is in a really nice place at the moment. 10 seconds is a vast lead, and you can see that ebb and flow on the graphic there. That will be traffic induced. These pros will normally be banging laps within a 10th or 2 every single lap, metronomically. So when the traffic gets in play, that's the problem. I actually think Hugo Cook may be a bit immature with that move at turn 3 on the BMW. Cost them both time. I think he would have been better to stay behind and slingshot into turn 4, but easier said done from the commentary box. Through there goes Maxi Gertz, back up again, 11.3 seconds. So it had come down, I promise you, but it's crept back up again. Sandy Mitchell, you're quite right, has fallen away by a couple of lengths, so that takes some of the pressure off Gertz right now. And then in 4th place, Jonny Adam, who is chipping away, but just can't really get close enough as a nervous, nail-biting Charles Dawson looks on. And he is looking for a 2nd win of the season, but also a 3rd maximum point score. Remember, they got maximum points at Silverstone, the car that won the race. Darren Lung, Dan Harper's BMW, not registered for points. So this is an important race as far as their championship hopes are concerned. But number 18 is Maxi Gertz, still keeping Sandy Mitchell at bay. Mercedes AMGs, both out of the same team. 2C's Motorsport, the Anglo-Bahraini team, 1st and 2nd. That's Kevin Say, who has done the stint in 18. Maxi Gertz now bringing it home, and they were winners, remember, in that wet, dry, wet race at Alton Park. But it's been a tougher weekend here. Maybe Maxi Gertz doesn't like flat circuits. You know, Alton Park hilly like the Nordschleife. Here it's a bit tougher. Number 9, Martin Plowman, under attack from Hugo Cook. They get past 84 Ginetta as well of Jack Mitchell. Cook to the inside, no way through there, but not for the one to try. Martin Plowman is going to have to make that car very wide for another quarter of an hour.
Yeah, that gap was much larger as they crossed the line last time by, so traffic really hurting Plowman. He now has maybe half a lap until he catches Robertson, and he'll want to try and get away from Cook. Clutton trying to get back that time loss he had with traffic as well. So this is going to be a three-car battle, McLaren, Lambo, McLaren, and potentially they're in the wrong order. I think Clutton could be the fastest, Cook slightly quicker than Plowman at the moment, Plowman the slowest out of the three.
Drive-through penalty, cost 71 for not respecting track limits. 71 drive-through penalty.
The voice you've just heard is that of Peter Daly, the race director, and because the majority of corners here all have sensors, so there's not much argument if you've been off the road. The evidence is there presented to race control, and Charlie Robertson then is going to serve a drive-through penalty in BMW number 71, then the Century Motorsport car, which at the moment is second in GT4, and he's going to tumble. Right, what is a drive-through in terms of time?
It's going to be 22.5 seconds. I think it's going to drop him 3 places. It might drop him behind Selkeld in the sister car. It's luckily the shortest pit lane we have of the season, but still down at 40 kilometers an hour. That will be tough, and he has to serve it within the next 3 laps.
Yeah, you get 3 passings of the timing line once it's appeared on the message line of the timing screen, and here Charlie Robertson then is about to be overtaken by a 3-way battle for 5th place. Martin Plowman, he goes through. Hugo Cook in the Lamborghini, then Marcus Clutton's McLaren. So whatever Optimum are doing with their McLarens, they've not found the same setup, the same pace that Paddock Motorsport has, or indeed in number 67 the JMH team has got. So Optimum with the Tillbrook Kirchhöfer car really struggling in contrast. There's 84, Jack Mitchell, who's about to be given effectively a place back again in GT4. Now, track limit second warning to Sandy Mitchell in 3rd place, and off the road has gone Hugo Cook then. That was coming out of the right-hander of Oggy's up towards Williams, and not only was he off the road, he'd lost all momentum.
Yeah, he's been off the road for a long time for how much time he's lost. I'd imagine maybe he's had a huge moment on the exit and it's taken a long time to get there. Has he got more of an issue? That car had an ABS issue with that man in our shot earlier. Have we had another braking issue? And these cars designed to have ABS, and as soon as you lose ABS, it is so difficult for the driver to get these cars stopped efficiently. Dynamically looks okay, no punches, no suspension, no bodywork damage, but if he's not able to attack the brake, we heard Rob was maybe able to reset that and continue, but as a driver that's the worst possible problem to have.
They need a safety car, don't they? But it's not looking likely to come as people are behaving themselves. Here is number 1 then coming up to the line, the recovering Hugo Cook, and of course the team will want to know what went on. Let's listen in.
Hit me on the rear end. I think I might have some damage. Can you check on the pit wall when I come back? Okay, just keep it on track. We'll get someone on the pit wall to have a look. Just straight into the rear, so it's only the rear.
Yeah.
So Hugo Cook talking about being hit in the back. Is there any damage? Can somebody have a look? So, yeah, he wasn't off of his own volition, that's for sure.
No, so I went down the wrong path. That must have been Clutton. We know he's aggressive, but Clutton was close behind him, and maybe he's just loading him up into Oggy's. Can't really see much damage on the back. Maybe a few of the strakes of the diffuser, the parts that run parallel to the ground to try and generate that downforce. Have they been damaged? It's hard to say. It looks pretty clean at the moment. There's dusty, but that's because of the weather we've had, not because of the contact. But they've dropped a lot of places. It'll be interesting to see if there's any damage on the front of Clutton's JMH by Orange car.
Indeed so. Well, that puts number 1 in 9th place. It started 4th on the grid. It's been a really tough race, hasn't it, for Rob Collard and Hugo Cook, who is the man currently behind the wheel and accelerating along Bentley Straight once again. Up front, meanwhile, Kiern Jewiss is very nearly in the second race. He's that far ahead. We've got 11 minutes and change of the race to go. 10.5 seconds is the gap. Another 1.5 back to Sandy Mitchell in 3rd place, and now incidentally there is a second warning of track limits for Hugo Cook having been off the road, so it feels rather unfair, doesn't it? But if you're off, you're off. There is the situation now in the silver part of GT4. So Jack Brown and Mark Warren lead GT4 outright, but they're in the Pro-Am category, whereas in silver this is the gap, and it is Jack Mitchell to Harry George, and it's 1.9 seconds. 1.9 seconds is the margin, and that is coming down between the pair. Up towards the timing line they go, and we've got, as I say, just under 11 minutes of the race now to go.
Yeah, Harry George showing good pace. We know he had new tyres at the start of the stint, but they would have dropped off now to a very similar pace to a set of fresh tyres that most cars run during this second part of the race. So they'll be happy with that. The car repaired well by the Optimum team after a relatively large impact in qualifying yesterday, which saw this car not set a time representative in Q2. So the race 2 will be difficult. And I think that's why they put new tyres on, to be honest. It's because this is their only shot of a good result today.
Right, now there, confirmation that it was contact between Marcus Klassen and Hugo Cook, because at turn 6 it's under investigation now. So race control will have access to myriad camera angles, and we'll have a look and see if blame can be or needs to be apportioned. Of course, Hugo Cook on the radio to the team, confident that's going to be heard by race control. So straight away putting his case forward, wasn't me, Gov. And we'll see if anything comes of that before the 10 final minutes of the race are up. Kiern Jewiss, though, having a relatively easy time up front, just picking off the laps, as here, Callum McLeod in the GT3 McLaren tries to get past the GT4 equivalent in the hands of Harry George up the inside. And again, as you talked about in the case of the Mercedes, you see how much more aero and how bigger a GT3 car looks compared to a GT4 car. There is 67, so that's Marcus Klassen being caught by Sven Muller now for 6th place overall. Porsche on the back of the McLaren, and we're wondering whether that McLaren may also have got a bit of frontal damage.
Yeah, I can't see anything obvious on the front. It could have been side-to-side contact, of course, but Hugo Cook asking for the rear to be checked. You would have thought it was front to rear. Good pace on board this Porsche with factory driver Sven Muller for Porsche into turn 1. The front of the Porsche very compliant considering the lack of engine weight over there. Now the big break of the lap, and the exit of this corner is where the Porsche is very strong, all the way down to first gear. We roll in a lot of speed. Concertina effect always makes it look good, but we are definitely getting closer to that McLaren in front of Marcus Klassen.
But then you get to a point, don't you, where the air becomes dirty and it affects your own pace. So if Sven Muller's going to make this move in the rear-engined 911, he's going to have to come from a relatively long way back, but it can be done at this corner, as Duncan Cameron proved early in the race. He closes up under braking, but then runs out of straight.
Yeah, exactly, and the Porsche not the fastest in the straight line. It's a very nice aero shape, so when it does get a slipstream, it seems to advantage it more than others potentially. Staying with at the moment, you can see all of these sensors on the exit of the corners. It's a strip, it's a pressure pad, so as soon as you hit it, it takes a picture. CCTV camera on the exit, so we'll have one here on the exit of the corner onto the back straight, so the drivers all trying to avoid it just there, and they all do on this shot. And then Sven Muller just relaxing. You can see the gear shift lights coming up. They all go blue. We're going to start to gain at the end of this straight, potentially. Not much, though. The straight line performance of that McLaren pretty strong. And then through this tricky under the bridge, through the right into turn 9. And actually, we're missing a mirror as well. I don't know if that was in the same instant. I only spotted the end of the wing earlier, but we're a mirror and an end plate short on the right side of that Honda.
Which is, of course, now back into the lead of Silver Am after the Tom Wood spin. So the Honda is a bit lonely. Jay Bridger at the wheel of it. It's the Bridger Motorsport team that operates the car. He was drafted in to drive as well as, if you like, be player manager at Spa, and has carried on while Luke Garlick, who took that podium with Jonny at Alton Park, is unable to race this weekend. So down towards the S's it comes, and it is in 12th place overall, with a good little battle in GT4 just up the road ahead. That's getting closer. We'll come to that in a moment. The Honda is about then to go into bomb hole. We've got 7 minutes on the clock. And this is the GT4 fight. 84, Jack Mitchell. Harry George in 17. And this is for second in GT4 and for the lead of Silver. So it's an important fight all round. Up the road is Jack Brown, who has just gone across the timing line. They're not going to catch him, but for silver honours, for second place within the GT4 segment of the race, it is an important battle. The gap between Brown and Mitchell is 14.5 seconds, and Mitchell to George, half a second, and that changes because the Honda gets between them.
Yeah, that would have annoyed George. Nothing at one end there, and it's going to get past Mitchell and a better guys.
Car 67, 10-second time penalty added to your race time for contact with car 1. Car 67, 10-second time penalty.
Okay, well, we've not had a replay of the incident. We haven't got a shot of it, I'm afraid, but Race Control's CCTV presumably has got something. They've been able to analyse it, and Marcus Klassen is deemed the aggressor, so 10 seconds added to the race time for car number 67. Were you frowning a moment ago?
Yeah, I think that's a light penalty personally, because Cook is just about 10 seconds behind. So Clutton obviously has been adjudged at fault. So yeah, racing driver brain, you get double for that for doing track limits, but pushing someone off the track is less of an offence of a track limit one. And we have to see the contact. Maybe it was slight enough, but if Clutton was at fault 10 seconds, seems like a light penalty.
Now in GT4, 84 is Jack Mitchell, and you can see now the Aston Martin of Tom Wood trying to split the traffic as he goes pounding one side and then the other. Past the McLaren, past the Ginetta, shows the speed differential, doesn't it, between GT3 and GT4. Mitchell to George, half a second at the start of the lap. The clock ticks on down, 5 more minutes to go. Kiern Jewiss working out already where to put the winner's trophy, already what victory speech he needs to make, and although Maxi Goetz is a fraction closer, it's still looking pretty safe for Kiern Jewiss for a second race win of the season. Not looking quite so safe for Jack Mitchell, is it? He's going to have to work hard here, making sure he doesn't put a wheel wrong for another 5 minutes. Yeah, and the McLaren very strong at the end of the straights as well, and Jack will know that strengths and weaknesses of the car too well. So he will be starting to look in his mirrors and start to defend into these corners. He'll hold the inside line ever so slightly just to cover off when that McLaren gets close. At the moment, he won't be too bothered because it'll be way too far back for George to be able to outbrake that Ginetta and get the move done. As we can now see Mitchell still near the rear of Goetz, but nowhere near the level of pressure at the start of this stint. So the pace has equalised between them, and Sandy Mitchell not able to do anything about that second place 2C's car. So over the line then now goes Maxi Goetz, doing enough to hang on to that place, even though he's a bit frustrated that he can't really do anything at all about the race leader. 9.3 seconds is the margin. Gap down going into turn 1. Goetz bounces up the curb as he had to squeeze past Phil Keane in the GT4 Mercedes. He's done it, but all of that suddenly brings Sandy Mitchell back into the mix, and Maxi Goetz with dusty tyres had to work really hard to get the car slowed down and to turn into turn 2 there. Ex-Barwell driver Phil Keane holding up the 2C's car, allowing the Barwell Lamborghini to get closer. I don't suggest anything untoward from Philip Keane, just merely an observation, David. You're very observant, I've often said this. So Sandy Mitchell observes now that the back of that Mercedes is a lot larger than it was, meaning he's a lot closer than he was, meaning that it might be game on for second place. But I still think actually that Goetz, with clear circuit ahead of him now, is going to be able to get back into a rhythm and just start to stretch that margin again. But it does show what the traffic can do. Yeah, it really does. And Phil Keane did nothing wrong. I'm not suggesting that. He held his line, but he wasn't interested in helping Goetz pass, considering Phil Keane not really in a battle with anyone, 13 seconds behind the car in front and 13 seconds ahead of Angus and the Mahiki Ginetta. So as far as the race leader is concerned, it is up front at the moment. The Kiern Jewiss Mercedes AMG, 9.3 seconds to the good. And as the cars will sprint their way here over the timing line, it remains the 84 Ginetta just ahead, chased by 17 McLaren. That gap is still half a second, so it is a very tight fight between the two, but Jack Mitchell still just with the advantage as the cars again make that run up to the Wilson hairpin. We've had Kiern Jewiss go through to start lap number 32. There in the Optimum Hopkins and George part of the pit bunker, they look on, and it's so frustrating, no doubt, this for Harry George. He's almost there, ready to make a move, but you know, finding another 2 lengths, another half a second, it's much easier said than done. Yeah, the team will be telling him how many track limits he's got left, basically. Has he got any to use up? Can he release that steering lock, carry another kilometre or 2 onto the pit straight, onto the back straight? Is that the difference he'll be able to use? Slightly underhand, but allowed in that regard. And if he did get past, that would make it an optimum 1-2. We've not spoken about the sister car, Jack Brown, leading by so far. So would we get a 1-2? We've got a 1-2Cs at the moment in GT3, and this could be an optimum 1-2 in GT4. 4Cs, I think, isn't it, for the lead? The 2-2Cs cars together then, as Kiern Jewiss leads Maxi Goetz by 9.4 seconds. It has been up and down, that gap, admittedly, but it has never looked as though Kiern Jewiss was under serious threat. Second warning of track limits to Sven Muller, incidentally. But as far as Marcus Klassen is concerned, his 10-second penalty at the end of the race is liable to drop him further down the order. George on the tail now. This is a serious effort coming up for the McLaren. Remember, this is for second in GT4 as the cars go into bomb hole through the right, the road through the compression up the other side, heading towards Coram Curve now. And as they come into this long, fast right, avoid the floppy marker, the race leader has got a minute and change on the clock. Long gone is Jack Brown, taking McLaren number 90 to a fourth GT4 victory of the season. Second and third still arguing over the silver lead. And there in the background, look, about to start his last lap is Kiern Jewiss, who must think it's pretty easy, this GT racing, Lark. What's remarkable about Kiern is that he only had one race weekend in anything last season. He was a late addition to the 2C squad this year. And even though he only races these cars in British GT, unlike Maxi Götz, who's in one every week, he has done an outstanding job. For second in GT4, they are closer than ever, and Harry George now trying to make a move, but all of this is a bit risky ahead of the race leader. Kiern Jewiss thinking, oh no, I don't need this on the last lap.
Yeah, Kiern Jewiss is going to make this the last lap for these two cars as well, because when he takes the checkered flag, it falls to everyone behind. Harry George will be trying to go. Jack Mitchell deciding to defend. I can see why, because he doesn't want the Mercedes to open the door. He's going to make Jewiss go around the outside. Very smart, very hard from there. And Jewiss would have been going, what the hell are you doing defending from me? But very, very bright driving from Jack Mitchell.
To make sure that Harry George couldn't squeeze up the inside. They are close again, as you can see. So this is second in GT4, remember, and it's for the silver lead, and it's game on as Harry George goes wide on the outside line, coming into Oggies, but Jack Mitchell stands his ground on the inside all the way up. There's no chance of getting the undercut on the outside line. The dustier line is Harry George, and he's sideways. He hangs onto the slide, but that's done it for him. So Jack Mitchell now chuckling in his helmet, thinking, gotcha, gave you the outside line. I knew it was going to be dustier. Traction brakes, and there's a rather resigned shake of the head. Game over as far as battling for second place is concerned. Kiern Jewiss, though, another masterclass in how to win in GT3.
Yeah, Jack Mitchell dangled the hook out there, and Harry George bit very hard and caught himself on it. Shame for Harry George. He tried, but it failed.
Kiern Jewiss then for Charles Dawson for 2C's Motorsport brings 42 Mercedes AMG GT3 up towards the checkered flag. This is the run out of turn 12. The road climbs ever so slightly as the checkered flag awaits, and honours in round 6 of the British GT Championship go to Charles Dawson, to Kiern Jewiss, their second race win of the season. Here for second place, Maxi Götz and Kevin Tay. It's a 1-2 then for the 2C's Motorsport team. Sandy Mitchell and Alex Martin taking third place. Already home for GT4 honours second, Jack Mitchell. For third, Harry George. We wait almost a full lap, though, now for Jack Brown to come through. They're going through. Charlie Robertson ending up in 17th after the drive-through, 4th in GT4. Chris Sulkeld is going to be 5th in GT4. Johnny Adam through for 4th overall, 4th in GT3. To win Silver Am, here is Jay Bridger. The Bridger Motorsport Honda NSX. Great to have this car on the grid, and Jay Bridger will bring it home, a class winner, and he's going to be in 12th place overall. Although in fairness, Tom Wood, despite the spin, has really hacked away and tried to reduce that deficit. They're not quite together, but not that far apart on the last lap, are they? No,
very fast is Tom Wood, and yeah, we saw the spin and lost him so much time, and ultimately the silver win in GT3. We never got to the bottom of why the damage on the right side of this car occurred, but it's been getting faster as the season goes on. It's great to have 7 different manufacturers in GT3 in British GT, and this Honda is a beautiful sounding car, very, very quick in a straight line, and takes the checker flag for that win in Silver Am.
So well done, Jay Bridger and Johnny Ip. Despite the spin and the damage early on, the car survives. Kind of been an easy car to drive with that missing aero, but here comes the dominant car in the second stint in GT4. Win number 4 beckons for Jack Brown and Mark Warren. Go back a couple of years, Jack seemed to have all the bad luck and was a perennial bridesmaid in the championship, but champion last year, and it's going to be another win as they march towards another GT4 title. Seemingly a flash of the lights. Done it, says Jack Brown. Crosses the line, and Mark Warren applauds after a very good opening stint from him. So honours for Jack Brown and Mark Warren. That's their 4th victory of the season in GT4.
Yeah, we had that contact through turn 1. It's a roller coaster of emotion, as we always say in motorsport, but contact with the teammate turn 1, and a very, very strong stint from Mark Warren. Jack Brown did everything he needed to, and more, to be honest. He grew the gap to second place, and a similar story to our GT3 leader.
So very happy Kiern Jewiss and Charles Dawson. Charles in the pit lane. Of course, for race 2, it's the other way round. And as much as Kiern Jewiss is going to start, and Charles Dawson will bring the car home, Kiern Jewiss going offline there to add to the pickup on the tyres to help with the weight and the ride height before scrutineering. So in GT3, Pro-Am won by Charles Dawson and Kiern Jewiss. Silver Am by Johnny Ip and Jay Bridger. In GT4, Pro-Am and outright, Jack Brown and Mark Warren. And in the silvers, Jack Mitchell and Josh Miller staying ahead to the end. This is the outright result, provisionally. Charles Dawson and Kiern Jewiss, the winners, from Maxi Götz and Kevin Say. Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell third. Giacomo Petrobelli and Jonny Adam fourth, ahead of Martin Plowman and Mark Smith. Nick Jones and Sven Muller rounding out the top 6. Duncan Cameron seventh with Matt Griffin's help. Tough race for Rob Collard and Hugo Cook. They were 8th, ahead of Morgan Tillbrook and Marvin Kirchhöfer. Top 10 rounded out by Simon Orange and Marcus Classen with that penalty. Mark Warren and Jack Brown then 2 laps down, but victorious in GT4 from Josh Miller and Jack Mitchell. Luca Hopkinson and Harry George taking third, and Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson fourth. But it could have been a different story but for their drive-through. Brandon Templeton and Chris Sulkels next, ahead of Joe Wheeler and Ian Duggan. So a very happy Charles Dawson, no doubt. There already is Maxi Götz ready to embrace Kevin Say. Charles Dawson welcomes Kiern Jewiss home, and as the door opens, Charles Dawson stands next to the car. Well done, he says. Go back a couple of years, Charles was learning about GT4 and had a tough baptism in the GT4 European Series, but in British GT last year, and then in GT4 and now in GT3, he has been very impressive indeed. Granted, he was able to do quite a bit of winter testing, but even so, not making mistakes and showing good pace. There's Maxi Götz thinking, this Jewish bloke's a bit quick, isn't he? So Charles Dawson taking race honours. Let's go to join Bryn, who's busily rounding up drivers, and he's got Charles Dawson with him.
I suspect, Charles, you needed that. You really, really needed the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've been planning that since Spa and working hard, and we threw everything at this race. New tyres, the pit stop. We went with a different direction this morning with the setup, with a little bit cooler conditions. So, a bit of a gamble, and the car was it was a peach. Yeah.
And for you, Kiern, it looks like you could just bring it home with a nice gap and no real drama for you.
Yeah, definitely, no risk. There's plenty of times at Coram where I probably lost 3-4 seconds, but there's just no need to go around the outside. Just when you're in a position like that where we obviously had no success penalty, we naturally got a good gap from that, and it was just, bring it home.
With our eyes on the championship there, we know 3 points separated the top 3 in the championship. You'd be delighted to know that the other protagonists finished 4th and 10th.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good haul of points, but we've got a second race today. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, starting in P5 with 10 seconds. So we've got to get our head down for that and score as many points from there, and then move on to Brands Hatch.
Huge congrats, well done.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Kiern Jewiss and Awesome Dawson do it again. So there is 42 in super slow-mo. Kiern Jewiss and Charles Dawson, a great job done. Winning margin in the end, 7.8 seconds, but that was Kiern Jewiss driving well within himself, making sure there was not a wheel out of line, bringing the car home for, in the end, an easy, dominant race win. And all good news in the championship as well. Mark Warren then, along with Jack Brown's assistants, winning in GT4. They were 14th overall. Let's get back down to Bryn.
Much like in GT3, the championship goes your way. The points haul there, 27.5 points. We know the gap at the start of this one, Mark, and you get to extend the lead.
Yeah, great, brilliant job from Jack. We had a little bit of rubbing between the two cars, turn one, which was a bit squeaky, but we got away with that, and then I managed to hang on to the silvers, which is ultimately my job at the start, and hand over to Jack and just hopefully bring the car home and nurse it home. So yeah, all good.
Track limits are a bit of the story there with Charlie Robertson and Ravi Ramid getting caught foul of it, but that plays into your advantage.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of my biggest goals is to keep it clean, keep it consistent and not do track limits for those very reasons. So yeah, no, it ended up quite well for us. So.
4 years in a row you've won here in Snetterton, so well done to you both, and the championship is well and truly on track again.
Lovely, thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
So happy Jack Brown, Mark Warren with him. So let's have a quick look at how we are in the championship, starting in GT3. Charles Dawson and Kiern Jewiss then now ahead by 15 points from Giacomo Petrobelli and Jonny Adam. So an important race as far as the Mercedes drivers concerned. Morgan Tillbrook and Marvin Kirchhöfer in touch third, although that was a really tough race. 9th they finished, with Kevin Say and Maxi Götz next from Alex Martin, and then the Hugo Cook points tally, different from Rob Collard, Rob having had to miss the first race at Donington. As far as GT4 is concerned, Mark Warren and Jack Brown pulling away now from Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson. Harry George and Luca Hopkinson are currently third. But of course, there's another race to come this afternoon, so that could be a very important chapter in telling the story of the 2025 British GT Championship. From pole position, Charles Dawson led away at the start of race 1 at Snetterton. Giacomo Petrobelli braving it out on the outside line. Rob Collard going toe-to-toe with Kevin Say. As in GT4, there was contact between the two teammates at Optimum Motorsport. It was a big effort on the inside line by Luca Hopkinson, clashing with Mark Warren. They survived, but it let Josh Miller through into the lead of the class. Through the pit stop window, the GT3 cars cycled first, with Jonny Adam, having won at Spa, serving a longer pit stop than others, falling to 4th place as he relayed Giacomo Petrobelli, and the car was mired there to the end as Tom Wood had a big spin all on his own, having taken over from Andrew Howard. And late race there was a big slide from Harry George to enable Jack Mitchell to pull away for 2nd in GT4. Kiern Jewiss and Charles Dawson came through the race winners, Jack Brown and Mark Warren winning in GT4 at the end of race 1 in Norfolk.